Okay, I'm gonna call this October 21st, 2025 Commissioner Special Meeting to order. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
I'm going to move to accept the agenda as presented with the exception of moving 9B, the EOC discussion to our first item.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Public comment. Is anybody here this morning wishing to make a public comment? June, do you see anybody on with a hand up? Hearing none, we'll move on to the approval of minutes.
All right, I'll move to approve the minutes of the October 7th, 2025 Commissioners' regular meeting as presented.
Oh.
I'll second that.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're now going to move to item 9B. It's a discussion regarding the commencement of the Emergency Operations Center project at Washington Junction. Morning, Dennis.
Good morning. Some Charles has drawn up, which we worked on to kind of highlight the pros and cons of what we're looking at. And so long and short is that we are in the midst of a project out in the Hancock site that is time sensitive in a couple of ways. And where the only snag we have at this point is the completion or the acceptance of I've written here HEP, but it's actually EHP, Environmental and Historic Use Permit, which is approved by FEMA on a national level. And that's what the snag is, the funding. Andy's has acquired from the congressional appropriation of a year or two ago. And this is one of the two really vital components of receiving this money versus observing the battle rules of Buy America, Build America, which we are doing and planning on doing all the way across the board. Isn't that right? Correct, Kevin. So we expect compliance here 100%, but with the shutdown in Washington, no one's there to read this application. We are facing a time of readiness from the standpoint of our builder, who is gearing and could go in a matter of even days now, I think, or waiting to get approval for this permit from FEMA. Now, the pros or advantages of starting earlier are pretty obvious. You'll see them listed as we can meet the ARPA funds deadline. What that means is that even though we are beholden to this money, we're also buying this property and constructing this building largely with ARPA funds, mostly with ARPA funds, which have to be expended in 2026. And if we wait until possibly the spring, you know, if we and even then we're not assured that this permit will be issued, then we're looking at having 6 to 7 months to expend these funds, as opposed to getting started now, which would make the job a lot less hectic. And as you'll see in the next less expensive. Inflation is a factor here. If we wait, what we're dealing with for vendors, and there are half a dozen players that Kevin is using to put this project together, and their pricing is current. And if we wait, it's going to go up. By how much, we don't know, but we're pretty sure it's going to go up. And that's one of the pitfalls of waiting for the spring. And as the shutdown looms, I don't see this application approval occurring within the next 30 days, which is what about all that we would dare to risk. I think we've actually said the real date is closer to the first week in November when we decide, let's pull the trigger. So the question for you really is, do we wait for this application to be approved, or do we proceed as though it's going to be approved, which there's risk. Now, what is the risk? The risk is we lose the funding. But I'd also remind you that we are already about $3 million committed to this fund without this appropriation. And to wait and see that collapse, I mean, we ultimately stand to lose the entire project. And my sense was that even if we did lose this FEMA grant money, we would probably find a way to go forward anyway. So that in the concise and abridged version is pretty simple. Those are the risks we face.
Andy, can you speak to reassuring us the funding?
He has talked to Ms. Woodcock.
I reached out to Senator Collins' office last week, and directly to Carol Woodcock. And she and I had a phone conversation. She followed up and responded by phone. And she assured me that the funds have been obligated to the state of Maine and in turn us to perform as intended.
So it's not a case of if, it's a case of when, correct? I mean,
Correct.
when we're gonna get the approval, when we're gonna. And as I understand it, gentlemen, do you know Kevin Grissom from E.L. Shea? Okay, Kevin's what's your official title, Kevin?
On this project, I'd be the project manager for
Okay,
here.
so we don't have to call you guru anymore. No, okay. Project manager for E.L. Shea. And so there's a couple of things. First of all, if we waited and if the price of goods went up, it isn't a case that this would cost us more. It's a case that we'd be getting less, correct?
Correct.
Because this is a $3.7 million project, correct?
Exactly. That's
And we'll
the,
never get any more, but if we wait and the price goes up on goods, we get less product than we would.
Yeah.
And you mentioned at the building meeting, tell us about being able to build on your footing as opposed to the entire slab. And what
Excuse me.
cold weather and so on.
yeah, so that's what it's all about, is beating the cold weather. There's nothing going on in site now. It's basically what it was when you bought the land. But we need to get in there before frost gets in the ground, dig out the soil, pour concrete, and have something in the backfill the soil, have something there that we can start building on. We can build during the winter, the wood framing, the sheathing, windows, doors, everything else. But pouring concrete in the middle of winter is a problem. It's costly. At some point, it's not really feasible. In particular, we can't pour concrete on frozen soil. So if we don't keep that soil thawed out somehow, for a period of time as the concrete cures, we just can't proceed. But what we can do is do that excavation in kind of short period of time, get the concrete poured for what we call the perimeter frost wall that the building is going to bear on, and then backfill, and things can freeze up and we can continue, we can build the building. We don't have to pour the slab. We don't have to put the utilities under the slab. We don't have to put the interior walls in. The building is freestanding and can stand on just the perimeter walls until we get it enclosed, get the, maybe even a little insulation in it. Then we can put some heat inside, thaw out the soil where the slab is gonna go, do that under slab plumbing and utility work for the slab and move forward in the middle of the winter. But the key is getting started soon enough, and that's why we say kind of November 1st, so that we can get the earthwork done, get the hole dug, put the concrete in it, and backfill before it freezes up. And generally, we look at Thanksgiving is kind of the limit. After that, you're kind of on borrowed time. Maybe the ground isn't frozen permanent for the season, but there's a good chance of it at that point.
So Kevin, if you got permission today, consent today from the board to commence, when would you start?
We're working, we have final and have had final design on the site and structural pieces. The architectural and finishes have been a little bit further along, but we now have that. So we're out pricing the earthwork and the concrete. I have some of those prices. I will have them all this week. We can sit down and present those prices, and with approval of those costs, we could move forward and another week.
That is the process, Kevin, that you have to go out to your vendors and get a price and bring it back to us for approval? That's the process?
Well, currently, we have a contract with the county. But there is no, fixed sum on it, other than we do know what the budget is. We have to fit in under that. But as I get, certain pieces of the project confirmed before I commit to these subcontractors and contract with them, I want to contract with you for those. So we can do this in phases, and that's what I'm suggesting. We would do this, earth and concrete, this early phase soon. And then things that include the paint and the ceiling tile, we're working on that, but that can come after the fact. That's less time critical.
Charles, do you represent us in this process of approving each component of this, as Kevin just talked about? I mean, who are we to say that this vendor over this vendor is more appropriate, or the pricing is correct, or whatever? Do you represent us in that process?
Do I represent you?
Well, in other words, who,
We're working hand in hand with E.L. Shea and making sure that we've designed it as economically as possible. There aren't a lot of frills in this building. So it's really more of a market thing. And I think that we can work together and make sure we can keep this thing under the 3.7 by continuing that back and forth with E.L. Shea on certain things. If something appears to be more expensive than originally was thought to be.
Dennis, you understand my question?
I do, I understand. Let me see if I can articulate. You're saying that we know what the ultimate cost is. And as long as these numbers aren't alarming or outlandish or completely unexpected, we could go forward with confidence that we'll still have these critical decisions that we can make down the road and keep this train on the rails pretty much without any real surprises.
So
And so what you're saying is, can we make the decision to proceed based on the overall budget today? I think you can.
Oh, that's not my question. My question was the ongoing process of having to approve, like the site work. How do I know if that's exorbitant? How do I
That
know
price
that
is,
that isn't so exorbitant, we can't afford the plumbing? You know what I'm saying? That's not.
Yeah.
our
yeah, we're
expectation.
relying on you and Charles for that.
Yeah, so stepping back a few months, there was a budget for the project established. So we have gone and priced all the individual pieces for this project that was about 50% designed a while back. That budget is what we're moving forward with, and there's going to be pieces in that budget, like any budget, that we go over here, we go under there. We need to balance it. And because at that point we didn't have complete design, that budget included contingencies. So now we have the contingency to offset certain things. So if the earth and concrete is over budget, but within the budget of earth and concrete and contingency, we don't have a budget concern. But at that DD level, we also understood that some of the would like to have items. For instance, it had a standing seam metal roof that would last a very long time. The building doesn't have to have that to keep the water out. It could be asphalt shingles. So we proposed to lower the cost and get us back onto budget, taking the metal panels out for the roofing, put the asphalt shingles in. We did that on a few items, got back to budget. There are still circuit breakers like that left in the project where things can be shifted, still give a 50-foot by 100-foot space, single story, just using different products to complete the work.
Okay,
So we can stay on budget.
So the issue
that way.
today is that giving everybody the approval to commence now, correct?
Yes, and trusting this process to take place as designed. And this was kind of what I'm saying is that we have enough cushion built into this budget, so any surprises are going to be absorbed, able to be dealt with in a way that doesn't upset the apple cart. So it's all,
You have concerns?
I think I'm fine with having them go forward. I think your concern had more to do with, if you had to come back to us with the totals for this one part of the project and you're trying to get it done by Thanksgiving, well, I mean, we only meet every 2 weeks, so that's where I think the concern would be. So,
Well,
to me, it's like we
at a
just move
minimum,
forward.
at a minimum, it could be just the building committee, that you
Yes.
appointed. It could be. And I'm saying as long as Dennis takes a lead on that, I don't want to be responsible to decide whether or not price on site work is reasonable or exorbitant. That's not my expertise. But,
I think the other concern though is the FEMA delay, right?
Yes, that's we may find ourselves with someone from Washington showing up and saying, what's going on here? This is,
I've heard that several times, but has
Yeah.
that ever happened? Does anybody know that that's happened before, that they've come and found out?
well, Andrew has some,
Not on the construction project, but certainly on other projects, more equipment acquisition and things like that.
in this case, my view is, even if they came up and said, okay, we're backing out, we still have got to go forward in some way.
Well, that's absolutely right,
So-
because we purchased this with FEMA money with the idea that we're gonna build an EOC building.
Right.
And this
with
EOC
ARPA,
building
yeah.
is 3.7 or 2.5.
And we're already 1.8 into it.
So anyways,
I just want us to keep going forward.
Yeah, agree. And trust. I think the group in Washington, for whatever they're doing, they want to see results, not red tape. So,
I think if the building committee, if you keep the building committee up to date on where you fall with the contingencies and everything. So as long as there isn't some huge surprise and all of a sudden we look back on, I think get it going.
yeah, agreed.
do you have a motion that would permit this? Do we know, has anybody prepared one? That would,
Um, I'm gonna move to commence with the EOC project relative to the approval of the, actually, I'm gonna move to commence with the EOC project
Regardless.
regardless of
Gotcha.
the HP application by EMA.
so as I understand the motion says he's authorized, he's approved to start now. Are you, do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Is there any further discussion? Kevin, are you satisfied you now have what you need from us to proceed?
Yes.
Okay. Having that in mind, I'm gonna call a vote. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye. Nope, you're all set, ready to go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
One,
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, Joe.
it does require a contract for these incremental portions as he's referred. Is it appropriate to authorize the chairman to sign those contracts as long as they are within the parameters of the original agreement? But you need those signed before you get
Yes,
started.
there's already a contract signed. The next step for the project, when it was a concept, the next step is, now that we have a complete design, to commit to payment of portions. So what I'm not gonna ask you to do is commit to the full, call it 3.7 million, until we know what the cost is, because maybe we're able to build it for the 3.6 million, and you have that money for furniture and other things that are left over. So we need to get to the point of knowing what our costs are, and we're working on that now. But we need to, there's one document, it's a couple pages long, that needs to be added to that contract that brings in the dollars as it's approved. It's often, one document. I think we're looking at making it two. It's gonna be one for earth and concrete, and then again for everything else when that price is known.
The most of these is two dollars.
It's two documents.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, I can't recall who signed that original document, but I think
Commission,
that's what I was thinking, so.
The full board.
I think it was. I need to look at it. You may have authorized the chairman to sign, but I don't think so in this case. I think I recall Charles made a spot for everyone. Which is fine, but I mean, as John mentions, you only meet every 2 weeks or so. I don't want that to, now that we've reached or bridged this gap, I don't want that to become another stumbling block. Is why I raised the question.
Gentlemen, you have a choice, either require them to bring it back to an official meeting for the three of you to approve, or permit the building committee to approve those and have authorize the chair to sign on behalf of the commission.
You being the chair.
Being the chairman on the committee, I can accommodate that if you can permit that. John, what do you think?
Can it wait 2 weeks or does it need to?
Well, yeah, so I guess that's part, like, do we have to get the signature before things would start?
You can't break ground until you have this first one done for earth and concrete, right, Kevin?
Correct. I need what the industry calls a notice to proceed. And a notice to proceed could be given without confirmation of amount of funds. How I would prefer to do it is to let you know how much it's gonna cost, what you're committing to, so it's not open-ended.
That's not a document you can create in a hurry and have done today.
Well, he's waiting on others.
I'm waiting
Still
for
waiting.
some price. I think that could happen this week, not today.
Is it a document that he could deliver and then you guys could stop and decide it?
If it takes the official approval of the board, it would have to be action of the board. So if the board approves the chair to sign today, that's the official action necessary to get it signed.
So would they be, contracts that we're having to sign?
Sounds to me like there could be two contracts. Basically, they're the details of the contract we have already signed.
Correct.
AIG.
AIA.
And
Yeah.
they're split into 2 segments.
And
What if first would be the work and shell construction, or what he's able to get together,
Yeah.
pricing this week. And the second would be the finishes as they come in, mechanical, electrical.
As I see it, the old devils and the detail, these two contracts are the detail. This is
Yes,
the
exactly.
I
detail
think it's
of
usually the
financial.
3. I think it's usually.
Basically supplementary contracts.
This model that we're using is construction management versus general contracting, the normal where there's just a lump sum price and it's known. We've been involved in the project to help with this budgeting and to get this to this point of starting the construction, but then manage the construction throughout. You already have a contract, but what would be added in this couple-page document is the specifics of the documents documents and their dates that is being committed to and an amount that is being committed to. This first document is probably the easier one. The second document is the one that maybe needs more debate or discussion. That's when we know the full cost. And if we're over budget, what we need to do is find out how we're getting it back to budget.
So is it
But
possible?
it will be on budget. It will
So
not
we
cost.
just
more
do
than
the
3.7.
earthworks part of it.
I was just gonna say, you do a hybrid, in other words, give the chair the authority to do the earthwork so that you can get started, and then the second one comes back to the board for a full discussion.
Yes,
You can
yeah,
do that.
yeah. And I'd ask for earthwork and concrete, just those 2 pieces, and then everything.
In the first document.
In the first document.
Okay, so if we could do that, that would delay the start.
Correct.
Okay with that? Okay. So we need a motion to that effect, and if you wait just a minute, John's typing up something. Again, John, just refer to this as a supplement to the AIA contract.
Commissioners,
Yes, Charles?
we will of course support Kevin and prepare the project budget, which is the all-in budget based on his construction numbers. And we can do that in that phased approach so that you will always know not only what it's going to cost, but what's remaining and where it's intended to go, like we did at the time of contracting this project. So I just want to let you know that we'll support them working together so that there is a complete project budget in front of you. And it will be the allocations for part A and then the allocations for part B, and then we'll monitor it and adjust it as we get finished. I don't think Kevin's that far away from being able to do the holistic thing. He just needs to get started on the first part while he gathers the rest of the data.
Buys us time. to get the
And
next.
I think that's what we're going to accomplish here in a few seconds.
So is it something to that, what was it?
The AIA contract that we have already signed. AIA contract. While I'm thinking of it, Charles, the new water line we put in, the contractor is not going to put the curb stop in. He's concerned that it may get damaged in the process, so he's leaving the curb stop out at some point during the construction phase. You're gonna have to tap into the new 2-inch line, put your T in and your curb stop yourself, so that's gonna be figured into the project, okay?
Okay, there's definitely some coordination to be done and discussed with you and Dennis about things that are happening or have happened and what's in our drawings. And Kevin is already aware of those things, so he'll be helping us keep track of those things.
Okay.
All right, I move to authorize the chair to
Huh.
contract to the AIA contract on earthwork and concrete for the Hancock site.
I'll second that.
I'm sorry, I missed that one. Did you authorize the chair to sign?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. Second that?
I did.
Is there any further discussion? Does this do what you need to do, Kevin?
Yes.
Get you that first, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I haven't talked to Dennis yet, but I'd like to revisit something in the drawing, and it has to do with that 10, 12, 15-inch drop from the sidewalk into the parking lot. I'd like to talk about a way to avoid that drop. And I'm not sure when, it's not appropriate for today, but at some point, if we could discuss that. Anyways, that's for later.
Yes, yeah. We can set up.
Charles, is there anything else this morning?
No, I would like Tom Fowler to be part of that discussion if you want to make changes to where we
Absolutely.
place the 0-0.
Yeah, it's already been located. I
Yeah.
think I'm just going to make that connection.
And Tom has already identified the location, and it's just the.
It's marked now and we'll continue.
It's
that.
marked.
It all works together. And
Well,
it even
with this done, it'll also be the last, the final bit of the work that Elliot Jordan Son's gonna do in that area. And then we'll be able to hand it over to you and you'll know exactly where what is and where you need to pick up.
yeah.
So, good, excellent. And of course, Tom's a key piece of that as well.
And we've been discussing this week how deep we can excavate in order to daylight the perimeter drain and have a proper depth for the footings and foundations. And so that's all part of that design. Everything on that site is too low. All those buildings are too low. And so and in order to have the perimeter drain work properly, it has to be set at -4'6". And so we'd be happy to talk about that with you and explain it to you and work it through.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Charles.
Very good. Anything further? Kevin, thank you for coming over this morning.
Welcome. Thank you all.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Sorry I couldn't be there in person, folks, but I think you're better off not having what I have.
Commissioners, our log cabin closure, I still don't have any price information from our vendors on that. So if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to table that item until we get some more appropriate information. That is, in short, that's to enclose that little porch area on the log cabin that we have desire to do. Have reached out to a group of people to give us pricing, but I don't have that pricing yet.
So we'll just consider that continued for discussion at a subsequent meeting.
Yes, I think.
Okay.
Thank you.
Moving on then, unorganized territories. Good morning, Millard.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Good
We have-
morning, Commissioners.
We have a transfer sheet to review and approve.
Yeah, I'm gonna move to approve the transfer sheet to move $61,180 from the UT Roads Reserve Fund G05-3200-00 to UT Transfer Fund Balance R60-80-0950 for final payment to Eaton Paving and Excavation LLC for the 2025 UT paving bid project.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Millard, anything else this morning?
That's all I've got, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to the airport.
Good morning.
Morning, Leroy.
First one is the request for approval of the wall space agreement between Hancock County Barber Airport and Black River Management LLC. They've had an advertisement on the wall now for about 3 or 4 years. This is just a update so we can bill them.
I'm gonna move to approve the advertising wall space agreement between Hancock County Bar Harbor Airport and Black River Management Company LLC and Butler Conservation Inc. and authorize the chair to sign on behalf of Hancock County.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 The next one is request approval for the lease agreement between Hancock County and Maine Coastal Flight Center for the terminal building office. Again, they've had that lease for several years. It's really just a renewal and an increase.
I'm gonna move to approve the lease agreement between County of Hancock and Maine Coastal Flight Center, Inc. for a terminal building office lease and authorize the chair to sign the agreement on behalf of Hancock County.
I'll second that.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the last one is the approval of the contract for the windows in the terminal building. With CEM DP Potter and Construction.
I feel like we mentioned here earlier before the meeting started that this window is a long project in coming.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been about it for most of the year.
Yeah, and to make it even worse is that, it's like a 70-day lead time on the windows. So now they're talking springtime before they'll do the work, just so we don't have to open the building up in the dead of winter. We're getting there.
I'm gonna move to approve the terminal building window replacement contract with CEM/DP Porter Contractors, Harmon, Maine, in the amount of $393,600 and authorize the chair to sign on behalf of Hancock County.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Um,
Anything else this morning?
No, just quick briefing. The taxi lane did get paved last week, so they're gonna wait and do some painting on it in the spring only because temperatures, but looks pretty good. Building project is moving along, so hopefully we're gonna get to the end of that one also. So,
What does a $500,000 window look like?
you can't see it, it's a glass.
All right. All right.
Moving on. Good morning, Jim. You're asking to hire somebody. Is that proper spelling on the last name? Is it B?
Yep, Carver.
Carver.
Yep.
I've seen Carvers, and I've
Yep.
seen
I checked it
Carters.
a couple times myself.
Yeah, okay, very good. What's your pleasure, gentlemen?
All right, I'm gonna move to hire Emily Carver of Eastbrook, Maine, as part-time on-call as needed corrections officer effective October 25th, 2025, at pay level 9A with no benefits.
Oh, excuse me, just a minute. Once again, shouldn't that be October 25th?
It is. He said that, but it's not written that
Oh,
way.
did you say
Yeah.
25?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was reading.
That's good, because you don't want to show them.
So it's October 25th.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 I gotta ask this next one. Is that one also the 25th?
Always a Saturday, yeah,
Saturday,
so that's a reminder to the department heads as
It
well.
is, it is. You're right. I get it from the start date of training. So it's the 25th of Saturday.
All right, I'm going to approve and hire Lance Hutchins of Bucksport, Maine, as part-time on-call as-needed corrections officer effective October 25th, 2025, at pay level 9A with no benefits.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you. So finally found somebody to fill that vacant position. Now, item B is a buyer, I suspect that's what this person, correct? And that's the first year in the academy, so when did they graduate with your other two and they?
They did. They've been employed full-time at East Millinocket since the summer of 2024, but they didn't end up completing the academy until then.
Okay, so how do you handle the field training, postgraduate field training? Do they take care of that and you just do orientation, or do you have to do field training yourself?
So we do. If it's pre-academy, it's a minimum of 360 hours. That's the MLEAP standard for the state. And then if it's post-academy, they're already a graduate, then it's 150 hours, but that's also dependent on person's progress and basically their experience level. You know, obviously somebody with 10 years experience may require a little less versus somebody that has 6 months.
So has he completed his field training in East Mill?
He does, he has, so we'll anticipate bringing him on with probably about 150 hour mark of field training.
He'll accomplish that and you just do. I don't understand. Didn't he get to 150 from East Mill?
So anytime we onboard somebody here, we onboard them with our policies, our procedures,
That's
our,
150 hours. That's regardless of who it is.
Correct.
I get you.
if they don't have any academy experience, then it'd be the
Was
360.
he pre-service before Bucky?
I don't,
You don't know?
I can look back.
I don't care.
I don't
just-
believe he was because he worked corrections previously.
So the only.
So he did, he went, if you're talking about the LEPS program, the pre-service, that's how he worked prior to attending the academy.
Okay, so he did have the pre-service,
Yes.
so he has worked the road before and after the academy.
He did, yeah.
Has he explored any housing options?
He is not, he lives within our residency requirements.
Oh, he doesn't live in East Mill?
He does not know.
Okay, so he's already within the,
He is, yes.
oh, outstanding.
Yeah, he just he currently commutes to East Mill, so. So.
Well,
bit of a
you
drive
know,
for him.
the only problem I see here is the payment system's upside down. So we're paying top dollar for a rookie. If we had a 5-year guy, we'd be paying the least, but I know it's there to kind of discourage departments from stealing from others, but what the hell are you gonna do? Gentlemen, it's a two-for, A and B is connected. If you want to spend the $48,671 in two, you're gonna need to authorize that if you want to hire the guy in A.
And just for your own knowledge, Commissioner DeBella, I know we've discussed it previously in years prior, but that buyout amount is something that's set by the state and the academy. And that's a number that they adjust accordingly based upon each year, but that's as Commissioner Clark stated, you know, to, I guess, prevent agencies from stealing others, but it's also a number that is intended to reimburse the agency that sent that individual to the academy for the wages, the uniform, fringe benefits, and so forth. So that's really what that amount is targeted towards. It's it would be similar if we were to spend the money to send somebody to the academy. So that's essentially what you're paying.
And this is to fill the hole that's in the department now.
Chairman, I move to approve the hire of Jordan Knapp for the position of patrol deputy at step B on the patrol union wage scale with the start date effective October 25th, 2025.
I'll second that.
Discussion. Tim Richardson. If you hire a corrections officer in the jail who's had the corrections officers that full-time training, don't they go right to step C?
Yes.
Yes, right?
Yep.
I'm curious, Dakota, how come we're not?
Yeah.
I'm
Trying to think how to word this. So I looked at it in a couple different ways. First and foremost, you look at Austin White, who we sent to the academy last year. They graduated the same. They also worked prior to a little bit as well. They'll transition to step B this December. So it puts them in that close proximity to other individuals that they went to the academy with, just a matter of months. The other thing is while I agree with that principle, and I think it's kind of a catch-22 because I agree with that, and I think that's how it should be. However, there was mixed practice in years past. And so
I think that's what I'm trying to avoid, Dakota, is that if we have a policy, we apply that policy equally throughout, and it would have to be a significant reason to deviate from that. And I always thought that we use the sheriff's department in the jail as an example, all of the departments are how to establish an ABC starting rate. And I always thought that full-time academy graduates
And-
should be a C.
And I don't disagree with you. I just, the reasoning that I had initially done with B is because I don't know what my rebuttal would be to Austin White, for example, when they come and say, well, I went to the academy with the same guy, I also worked prior to, but now he's a C and I'm an A going into a B. I agree, it should be a C.
Maybe the policy should be that if you graduate, once you graduate, complete field training, you should go to a C.
And I'm more than content with that. But, and
Let's discuss that in a future meeting, but I really would like to see more consistency with what we apply this.
And ultimately, that's what I was looking to do, was try to come up with consistency. And I agree that was the structure for certain hires in the past prior to my time, and then others it varied. So I do think it should be more standardized, and I do agree with that.
Okay, we're gonna deal with what we have today here, gentlemen. I'm gonna call a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. B,
I'm going to authorize the expenditure of $48,671 to be paid to the East Millinocket Police Department out of the Department 10 account number 10-70-275, the officer by outline.
I'll second that.
any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now, item C, Dakota, we have a two-page memo from you regarding this. And I don't have that in front of me. I don't have it, but I'm left with wondering about two things. One of them was, it appeared in there that you were making some suggestion that we, thank you. I don't, do you have that? What's the name of that book? Suggestion that you're going to take 25 budgeted funds, spend those in 26.
No, so what I'm looking to do is, what I'm looking for your approval for is, with the, so speaking with, MDA last week and getting accurate numbers as of date, as far as what the wages look like and things like that. So what I would be asking for your permission to do is start that process now, select an individual to go to MDEA effective January 1. And, under the agreement where they would absorb half of the cost of that agent. And to start onboarding, as they're onboarding with main drug, start the hiring process and onboarding for a deputy to fill that position now.
Are you suggesting though that the young man from Franklin would be the agent?
No, that would be the individual that I would like to start onboarding now to replace the vacancy that will be created in Department 10. And so what I'm asking for is to utilize probably, I mean, by this time, if approved and allowed, I mean, it would be a start date probably ended.
So are we absorbing the cost of training, new recruit? Then they get a certified deputy later as an agent? Because we go to job, I mean, that's a 9-month process.
So with this individual specifically, in part why I'm asking to onboard them now is to start some of that process, like policies and some of that field training. They did already complete the pre-service, so they would be able to be utilized and complete some of that training now.
I know,
So
but
that-
in order to adequately replace an existing deputy that is going into the task force, this guy's gonna have to be fully trained.
He will, yeah,
That means he's got to go to the academy for 18 weeks.
he will, yeah.
And we've got to absorb the cost of that, which is really an additional cost to our half paying for the agent.
What it would do is it would effectively unchange our staffing levels currently because of hiring this individual that we just did, so.
Nevertheless, we're bringing in additional guy, just the way you should be taking anybody out of your regular patrol thing until you can replace them with a competent replacement. I'm saying this guy isn't the equivalent replacement because he's a rookie, trained rookie. You're gonna have to put through the whole training process, and we're gonna have to bear the cost of that before we can lose a certified deputy. So, but I want to back up just a little bit. I want to make sure that you understand a little bit of the history. Back in the 1990s, the state wanted to get more involved in drug investigations, and they formed what they called the Bureau of Intergovernmental Drug Enforcement, BI. That floundered for a couple of years and got reorganized under the present main drug enforcement agency, which it is today. Now, in the infant times there, whatnot, Bangor had a field office for Eastern Maine, but because they had so few agents and so much drug activity in Bangor, Hancock, Washington County didn't see much enforcement action. That concerned us, and the sheriff and the police chiefs got together and lobbied the towns to support putting a couple $100,000 into the county budget, and that's how the drug task force got started. For several years, the county actually paid for a couple of deputies' wages and regular salaries for the drug task force. Now, 3, 4, 5 years ago, somewhere along the way, I've kind of lost track of what happened and whatnot. We negotiated or told the state there was 2 vacancies. All right, state, we want to make sure both of these vacancies get filled. So one of them is our responsibility, but one of them is yours. You've got to fill yours and pay for it before we fill ours. And we had money in the budget to do that. But for the last 3 years anyways, we haven't done that. We haven't filled it. Now, fast forward to today. Despite the fact that back in 15, 16, 17, all this was going on, very active for us being involved, the staffing level for down East Drug Task Force, Hancock, Washington County, was a supervisor, 3 agents in Hancock County and 2 in Washington County. That's what I remember when we were contributing. Fast forward today and whatnot, I find that today there is a supervisor, 3 agents in Hancock County and 3 in Washington County, and they're all being paid for by somebody other than Hancock County. So we are not contributing to a task force that is larger than what we originally was contributing to. And it's being fully funded by other entities and other ways and whatnot. Now, this 50-50 arrangement that is being offered to us and whatnot is an enlargement of an already enlarged task force. And I guess it leaves me with the feeling is that I want to be sure that the task force never falls below some staffing level that's adequate for Hancock County's drug investigation. But at the same time, I'm not interested in expanding this. If the state wants to expand the Down East Drug Task Force, more power to them, but they should do it on their dollar. I don't think our taxpayers, who expect us to be sure to fund a minimum staffing level, needs to tax them for an increase in the staffing level. And considering that they're so robust today and their funding is complete without us, I think it's time that we pull the plug on this task force. If the time ever comes when things collapse there and they need assistance again, we can get back and talk about it. But I don't think the county should be involved in supplementing financially a state agency. I mean, this is a division of the Department of Public Safety. They have a great great variety of resources for, for funds that we don't have. Ours only the taxpayer. And I don't think the taxpayer needs to be, I don't think the property owner needs to be taxed to support this kind of endeavor. Where it's a state agency, and today they're fully funded by some other entities. So I think we should just pull the plug and not put any more money into the agency unless at some point the task force falls below some of, our expected staffing.
Do you know where do you have any idea where they're being funded from now? Really?
Grants, agencies paying for their own, if the state police officer, the federal officer, those are people that are paying for their own guy and whatnot, so that's where obviously, Washington County's not paying anything. Basically, they did send an agent home. It's all being funded by other sources other than county tax dollars.
So to speak on to that, to piggyback off what Commissioner Clark was saying, is the way that the main drug enforcement agency is comprised of is you have these parent agencies, such as us, such as Penobscot County, Ellsworth PD, Bar Harbor, so forth. Other agencies that ultimately will supply the agents or the personnel to build these task force for the drug enforcement in their respective areas. It is something that it's a model used across the state. Main drug enforcement agency, the only actual main drug enforcement agency positions that exist are your commanders and your administration. Everywhere else is supplied by outside agencies, your local agencies, and that's how it's comprised of. That's why they coined the term task forces. The same as there's North Central that covers Penobscot County and so forth. So we down here, as part of the Downey's Drug Task Force, we're comprised of, as Commissioner Clark stated, there's two offices. One is located in Machias, one is located here in Ellsworth. The Ellsworth office primarily focuses on enforcement within Hancock County, but due to it being statewide jurisdiction, they are able to expand the scope of that wherever that investigation may take them. An example of that would be is prior, while my time here at the sheriff's office, part of my time was spent at the main drug enforcement agency as an agent there. I was one of those agents from the sheriff's office that was there. And so where I'm going with this is, although I was assigned from the sheriff's office here, located in the Ellsworth office, with that statewide jurisdiction, some of those investigations carried me to Bangor and so forth, is because ultimately my investigations down here had a connection up there as far as the supply of drugs coming down and so forth. Now, with that being said, the complement of that Ellsworth office has been a supervisor, as Commissioner Clark stated. It's always been one Ellsworth officer, one Bar Harbor officer, and then at that point, it was two from the sheriff's office. So you had 4 agents, you had 1 supervisor. Currently, that complement looks like 1 supervisor, 1 from Bar Harbor still, 1 from Ellsworth still, and 1 from the state police. So this agent from the sheriff's office would bring it back to the original complement level that we're used to. It's not that they're at that complement right now. They're at 3 agents and 1 supervisor. They were always at 4 agents and 1 supervisor. And so this would bring them back to that level. That is also in part why the state is allocating funds and saying, hey, we'll make this agreement, we'll absorb half of those costs to bring them back up to that level. The other side of that is I do feel like it is important, at least from my position and being down there and seeing the impact of drugs across the state, but also in our county, and the influx or the distribution or importation of drugs. It couples with many problems that we deal with, whether it's mental health, whether it's welfare checks and so forth. So there is a ripple effect to that. And I do think that as being a county agency and it being a county task force, I do think that it is important that we do have a stakeholder share in that or a participation. Drug enforcement, it's great to have resources for people and things that they can resort to battle drug addiction and things like that. But it's equally important to have a multiple prong approach with addressing it with the enforcement as well of the importation and distribution. Resources alone is not a great system, and enforcement alone is not a great system. But to put those together is the best is the best scenario. And I do think that it's important that the county does have involvement with the drug task force. You look at the other counties around the state that do. Aroostook County does, Washington County does, Hancock County does. We have historically had participation there. Knox County, Cumberland County, the counties by and far all have participation. I would reserve myself from saying all. The vast majority do, and they all may. I reserve saying that because I don't exactly have that fact here. Just from my own personal experience from working with those agents, I can tell you that by and large, the counties do have involvement because it directly does affect enforcement within their county and the citizens and so forth. So there is a great benefit there. I do think it's a good arrangement. As Commissioner Clark stated in the past, the county had fully floated that bill for 2 agents. And what we're asking now is for the county to pay half of an agent. And the state would pick up the other half. I do think it's important on multiple aspects, but that's what our ask is today. It's something that we've talked about in the budget for the past couple of years. It's always been, hey, once you get the staffing, we'll do it. Well, we're at that level and we'd like to do it again.
Nothing I said though prohibits the sheriff's department from putting an agent into the task force. If they can pull it off somehow to get a deputy, they put him in there and have the state pay for it or some other entity, it's a grant or whatever, pay for it. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the actual funding by taxpayers of the task force that is self-funding themselves now. Now, I don't know, we might be talking about a different time here, but, I confirmed the 3 agents in Hancock County with, 2 in Washington County with Corey Bagley when he was the supervisor. That may have increased and whatnot. But again, we haven't funded from the task force agent for 3 or 4 years.
I was the last one. It was in 2023, the end of 2023. So it's been under 2 years. With that being said, I don't dispute that may have been the agent complement when Corey Bagley was there. I can say that in the last 10 years or so, it's as I stated, 1 supervisor, 4 agents. So you go back, 10, 15 years, that may have been the complement. That has not been in the last decade. I can also say in the last decade, things have changed with drugs, right? You've had more, marijuana used to be illegal, for example. Now it's legal. You have more fentanyl, you have more xylazine, you have more drugs that have been brought in, more harder drugs, more impact to the citizens. And that has been the complement for the last decade. We're just looking to continue that. And to talk about the funding portion of that, there are some state paid positions. There are a lot of agencies that do pay for their own agents to go, the same as we had before, again, with 2 agents. And it's something that we have budgeted for. Commissioner Clark is completely correct with that. And the other thing that I would remind you of that the commission had supported previously was the arrangement where, as Commissioner Clark pointed out, the state pays for 1 position, the county pays for 1. So we've never been against paying for it. Now, whether you want to talk about tax dollars at the state level or tax dollars at the county level, right? I understand it has more of an impact at the county level. Ultimately, it is tax dollars. The other side of that is we've never been shy of paying for 1 before, and it's fundamentally still the same agreement. They were willing to pay for half, right? 1 out of 2. They're still fundamentally agreeing to pay for half. It's just we're talking about 1 position. The fundamentals here haven't changed. It's just whether or not you're willing to put that investment and that commitment.
The fundamentals have changed because our focus from the time of inception was to be sure that there was a minimum staffing level in the drug task force, that they would always have a presence. What we're talking about now is that we're talking about an expanded office. And the rumor, gentlemen, is that the state police may be putting another trooper into that task force. Now, that's just anecdotal, and it's a rumor, we don't know that, but I think there are still avenues to expand that without having to burden the property taxpayer in Hancock County with having to pay for that. Now, if you want to make a contribution in 26 towards an agent, they have $41,000 in the reserve account. We'll give that to the state towards it and pay that towards an agent for 1 year if you want to make a contribution. But I still say, I think it's time that we phased out financially supporting the drug task force with county tax dollars.
So one thing for me is I remember over the last couple of years during the BAC, there was always a fair amount of support and annoyance on their side when we were trying to limit the drug enforcement task force contribution. And we kept on putting conditions on it. And now the conditions are met, so I kind of feel like we keep moving the carrot on them. So, I mean, I'd be in support of it because I just kind of feel like at a certain point when the department comes to us and they fulfill all of the asks that we ask them to do, and then we say, oh, well, you know what, now, no, we're not gonna do it. We're not gonna support you now, even though we said, oh, just do this and then we'll help you out. I've seen it a couple times last year, and I just think we should support it. Ask people, should Hancock County be contributing towards drug enforcement? It's gonna be nonstop people saying, yeah, you should be supporting it. I do think it's important for us to have the skin in the game, and not have just the municipalities assisting on it. I think as leaders in the county, it's for us.
Do you support, though, additional cost, having a rookie going through that whole training process, academy and everything, just to replace that seasoned deputy we're taking out of the patrol division and putting into the task force? I mean, that's a substantial amount of money, resources.
So talk to the financial part of that.
Yeah. Yeah, the problem with, I guess my rebuttal to that would be is, okay, let's say you say, well, we're only gonna do this if you then can go find an experienced person that doesn't have to go to the academy and so forth. Well, as you've heard, they still have an onboarding process. They still have FTO. So you really primarily, you're talking about the academy. And, you know, when it comes to that, I have an individual that is, that is a local resident that wants an opportunity, and I would like to extend that to him because we have that individual that wants the job. He's interested, he wants the opportunity. And for me to say, okay, well, no, I gotta go find somebody that has experience, that's fine and dandy, but as we all know, it's hard to find people with experience. We've seen that time and time again. They're not knocking at
$48,000.
Right, they're not knocking at the door. And so, with that being said, put a little bit of investment in
It's
saying,
not a little
okay,
bit, it's not a little bit.
we're talking
It's a
18
huge
weeks.
amount of money. It's the guy's salary, benefits, all his equipment, everything you want, not just to get him through the first 6 or 9 months. That's added to the cost of what you're gonna pay the state for half of the deputy,
So,
half an agent.
I've said it before, if you want the individuals, you have to be able to invest in them. This is as a local resident, a kid, and that wants that opportunity.
And I'm saying that's where this whole process breaks the bank. To spend tens of thousands of dollars to replace an existing deputy in there. I know it's difficult to do, but they did it with Swans Island. They found a qualified applicant to go to Swans Island that they didn't need to train.
That would be the same,
Hopefully that would be, that would be the best case scenario, finding somebody here, that person in the agency of Hancock County, or have that person work patrol and find somebody.
this conversation, as far as that goes, is so pointless because I can reword it this way and completely obliterate this whole argument. Okay, what if I brought to you today that guy from Franklin, that kid, right? Yeah, I would hire him right now with no issues and send him to the academy. And then I bring this kid to you with experience next week, and you'd be like, okay, no problem. I found somebody with experience. Now you're good. We're talking about the exact same scenario. What order do you want me to present in it?
We're not
Okay.
talking the same scenario. That is not the same scenario, because if you brought somebody here, trained and experienced, he would go to work and the guy would come out of the
Okay, great.
existing task force, existing department, in the task force. You're not gonna do that. You're gonna train a guy, hire a guy, and
Perfect.
train him for 6 to 9 months. And that's an added expense to getting somebody, just because you wanna be represented in the task.
Perfect. In that scenario, then allow me to hire the kid from Franklin now, and then I'll hire this guy with experience to maybe fill the drug task force. What I'm saying is you're talking,
Listen, that makes any
you're,
sense. to
you're,
you.
all you're
being
doing is
double-
rearranging the order of that. You're saying, well, go find somebody with experience. I've just brought somebody in with experience. I'm telling you, it's difficult to do that. And as far as filling the positions and having individuals interested, we have somebody that's interested. It's a young kid that's local to the area that wants an opportunity. Everybody needs an opportunity to start off, and we're looking to give that to them. And you're not giving for that.
No, first of all, you don't have money enough to hire this guy. You don't
We
have-
do.
Wait,
What are you talking about? Money? We have positions budgeted.
where,
What do you mean, where?
in which budget?
25.
We have
26.
in both budgets. What are you talking about?
What do you mean?
I'm asking.
Department 46.
We have funds in Department 46. We have
Those
funds in
those
Department
funds in
10.
Department 46 are in exchange for agents that are paid for by the state. We pay them out of our expenditure account and get reimbursed out of our revenue account. Those are not new funds for expenses that we're going to pay.
Right, okay, so what we're looking to do, as outlined in my memo, is we're looking to spend the funds that are budgeted for Department 46 in
Those are gonna
2020.
be reimbursed.
In 2026, that would be reimbursed. We're then looking to utilize the budgeted funds in Department 10 for the wages of our deputies assigned to Department 10. We're not looking to utilize.
There's no money in the expenditure line in Department 46 for agents that we're going to pay for.
There isn't effective January 1st of
No, there
2026.
is not. In the 26 proposed Department 46 budget,
Mhm.
the expenditure funds in there are intended to be reimbursed by the revenue account.
They never were. That was never the
Listen,
conversation.
we took 60,000 out of that just for that reason.
For what reason?
$60,000 taken out because we didn't want to raise money for the agent. That was taken out before we sent it to the VAC.
All you're trying to do right now is just muddy the waters. It is very clean and it's clear that you're opposed to it and that's
I'm muddying
fine.
the waters.
You
These
are, you're
gentlemen
trying to
don't-
throw
these
out
gentlemen
numbers.
haven't a clue what you're talking about because you have double thought this thing right to the.
I have not. They're budgeted funds and you're just trying to say anything you can to oppose it.
I am opposed.
I understand that. That's fine, but let's just call a spade a spade.
$50,000 to have you replace an agent, just to replace a deputy, just so that you can be represented in the task force. That's not.
It's not so that we can be represented. It's so that okay, in a way it is. So the county
that's
can
all-
have a
that's all it
stakeholder
is.
share in enforcement, drug enforcement, that is for the county. You go and talk to any citizens, what's the percentage you think that's gonna say, no, you know what, we should pull out of drug enforcement in the county? Go find some.
I'll find a lot of people that are tired of being taxed for items the state should be paying for.
And so when
don't
the
tell me
state-
that's not gonna be a
So when
problem.
the state says, you know what, we'll take stakeholder share in it as well, we'll come cover half, you're gonna say, you know what, taxpayers, that's not a good arrangement. We didn't come up with anything. That is a solution, that is meeting us.
And I'm saying, take your 41,000 in 26 and make that contribution if you want.
That's the same thing you said for 2025, and then when it came to budget, you wanted to use that money. You rewinded a year ago, that's the exact same thing you said.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You said, you know what, use your reserve fund, you and I calculated, it was like third week in September, you can put an agent in main drug enforcement.
Well, you would have to have a replacement.
I have somebody that we can hire as a replacement.
They have $50,000-$60,000. What do you want to do, gentlemen?
All right. Now I'm gonna move to authorize the hiring of an individual for a patrol deputy position utilizing budget funds in 2025 with the intention to fill the budgeted MDEA position in January 2026.
I'll second that.
Holy smokes. You guys don't really understand what you're doing. If you want to do that, fine. I've got a nasty habit of saying I told you so.
The facts that you want to provide, you talk about Corey Bagley 10 or 15 years ago, those are not the same facts that stand today.
All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? Aye. Nay.
Thank you, Jim.
It's been withdrawn, or at least we're going to take it up at a later meeting. RCC,
Morning. Looking to transfer Jamie Myrick from full-time to part-time. Which is effective October 18th.
I vote to approve the transfer of Jamie Myrick from full-time to part-time dispatcher without benefits effective October 18th, 2025.
I agree with that. I second.
any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anything else? Human resources.
Commissioner Clark, did you come?
Yes.
We got two eyes, but not a third eye.
On the. Aye.
On you, Mike. Thank you.
Morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
So we've been working with Acadia Benefits on, they've requested that we approve renewing the current contract that we have with them, which is $10,000 annually for our consulting agreement with them. So this morning, I'd like to have request approval for that.
So I had a question. I feel like Acadia Benefits, we've had this deal with them. We had it in the beginning mainly because we had a self-funded healthcare. We're like, oh, we'll keep them around for a few years to like get the transition to move from moving over to out of that healthcare plan. And I do kind of wonder like whether it's something that has to continue.
What's the cost, the annual cost?
So it's 10,000, that's still no quarter.
One thing we've got from them though is professional or expert advice on issues. I mean, Anthem, this whole issue of Anthem, nothing like that. I don't know if we needed that, but just wondered if we don't have that available to us, when we spend money somewhere else to get a legal opinion on some of these other issues. I don't know what the ratio is of 10,000 to what we might have spent if we hadn't had those. Can you tell us what beneficial function they're providing today now that we're not self-funded?
So I believe if you look on page 2 of that agreement, it does go down and say specifically what they are providing as a part of that yearly agreement. And I will say in years past, a conversation with Michael and I, it has been brought to question, are we getting full use of these benefits? Over the past few months, I've really tried to ramp up requests from Acadia, and they haven't filled them. One in particular has been the Acadia Northern Light benefits. They've been instrumental in helping us get a backup plan in the event that we need something like that.
They're listing their services, but how much of these services are these the services that we've accessed? Or this is what they just offer?
Well, I can't speak to what we've accessed before I got here in March, but I can say over the last few months, I have been using them regularly. Different consulting services that you see there on page 2. I hope to expand that next year. And if I find that we're just not getting our money's worth with that, then I'm hoping to look elsewhere to get the most bang for our buck.
Would they be assisting with the wellness, the plans for the wellness program?
They also have been assisting with that. So the proposals that I've gotten so far, the employee assistance plans, they've been helping me get different proposals and things like that.
I would just say if we approved it again for this year, I really want to see like you create metrics to follow whether we're really getting anything out of the relationship anymore. At least it's worth $10,000.
And I completely agree with that. If we find at the end of next year that we're not, then perfectly fine looking somewhere else.
All right. I want to move to approve the consulting agreement between the County of Hancock and Acadia Benefits, Inc. as presented.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 To enter into executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA 5(6)A to discuss personnel matter related to IT tech position.
I'll second that.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is Chuck coming up?
So Chuck had a very important meeting that he said he